Hello, we're live with Ashley Smith from Cigar City Brewing, actually the latest addition to the brewing team at Cigar City. I just noticed that when I click onto this thing, it says you can go live for up to 8 hours. Can you imagine what torture that would be for people to listen to us chatting for 8 hours?
Yeah, I know that. I don't think anybody wants to hear me for 8 hours. My goodness.
Well, just thank you for coming on. Ashley is super cool. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Cigar City has come a long way in Florida in just a short amount of time. And I think Ashley's going to be a real, given her prior brewing experience, will be a really cool kind of fresh perspective on Cigar City's approach to beer. So I look forward to seeing what you do while you're at Cigar City. And I've been really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly excited about it. Talking with some of my coworkers, the desires and impulses towards some of the things that I've worked with are already there. Just looking forward to implementing them and finding, the right dosing, if you will, into executing that. So look forward to working with them and a bright future. This company is blowing up. I've never seen anything like the following that is here. It's crazy. There's like groupies out front. They see me walk by in my boots and they're like, "Oh my God, do you work here?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, I mean, I know it's cool, but the following and the fan base here is incredible. So
that's hilarious that you say that because, I was reading an article the other day, and people were saying that brewers are like the new rock stars, which is so weird, right? I mean, isn't it like a weird thing to think about that 5 years ago, this is an industry that for most people didn't even exist, and now people are saying you're the new rock star? I mean, you're like...
Well, I guess there's like a term out there called brewpies, like brewer groupies, which I mentioned that to Megan the other day, and she thought I was calling her droopy. And I was like, no, you must have groupies, like brewer groupies, It is a slightly sensitive subject for me because I do want people to realize that it's a blue collar job. You get dirty. You're dealing with hot, cold. In my previous world, I wore snow pants cleaning kegs. I mean, it's not glamorous by any means. The creative aspect is such a perk. It's such a delightful thing, and then to go out and enjoy your craft with, the general public, that's such a treat. I don't think a lot of painters get to go out and mingle with people and get drunk over their paintings. Whereas craft beer brewers, they get to go out and drink their creation with people who also are enjoying their craft. So it's special for sure.
That I'm happy you bring that up because I talk a lot about that, how beer is as much an art form, or can be as much an art form as anything else that people consider art. I mean, there's a lot of thought process that goes behind beer. People, different brewers' interpretations of what a style of beer should be is artistic in and of itself. Just the fact that you can fine-tune every aspect of what you want in, this glass, for example, is art. I mean, it's a creative outlet, right? I mean, is that kind of how you see it? I'm happy to hear you say that.
No, absolutely. And I think that is one of the things that I am better at. It's one of my advantages. One of the things that I do well is the creative aspect of beer and like food and beer and just flavoring and looking for off flavors. The technical side, like getting a computer running, apparently is more my challenging aspect. But the more artsy side, the more brewing with feeling side, because it doesn't matter how technology advanced you get your brewery, you're still going to have implement some feelings. Otherwise your beer is soulless anyways. So there's always going to be a certain amount of feeling involved in your beer, and you know, yeast, it's a living thing. You never know what it's going to do some days. Or, you know, if you have a slow fermentation, I mean, what is that going to yield? You're going to get all kinds of, there's too many variables for it not to be artsy to a certain extent.
Sure.
So I really, really enjoy that part of this industry. It lets my more creative side shine. And also I enjoy troubleshooting and trying to perfect an imperfectible thing, sort of thing, you know, so it's fun.
I mean, that's all about art, right? I mean, it's an artist is a man or a woman who can control their brushstroke, right? I mean, it's as much as possible, right? I mean, that's what will kind of separate one from the other. I mean, how they control the brushstroke and how well they can control the brushstroke, maybe. And so, like I said, I'm completely on the same page with you. I think it's 100% an art form, and I'm happy that people may be starting to see it that way. Definitely growing in sentiment. I think is that this is more of an art, of a good or an art form that we should be appreciating that way and treating that way.
For sure. I mean, I think it's a beautiful marriage between art and science because, you know, maybe people do it science first, art second, art first, science second. But to me, it's art first. You create something beautiful, and then the science aspect comes in where you're like, how do I do this again and again and again and again and keep recreating that beautiful art? And that's the science aspect, and that's the troubleshooting part of my brain that I love. That challenge sort of thing of okay, well let's recreate this. This was great. Let's do this again and again and again. So it is an interesting industry in the sense that you have I'd almost say equal or 60-40 on the art versus science. I mean, there's a decent amount of science that goes into it. It just depends on you know, how much science you want to put into it, how much consistency. Quality, of course, is very, very important. That should be your first after, you know, art and quality, and then consistency should be right up in there as a weird little trifecta of the most important things, in my opinion. So
I'm gonna agree with you on all of that. And that I kind of want to go back to the Brewpies. How was it at Uinta? I mean, it's you know, so like out on the West Coast, at least the way we see it in the East Coast, or I see it, especially down in Florida, it's a much more, I guess, mature or a much more established beer community for the most part. I mean, we have stuff, you know, we have cities, Philadelphia, we have North Carolina, you know, Asheville's a big beer. I mean, Asheville is a big beer town, but it seems like the West Coast is already kind of like. Do they still have that groupie mentality out there, or is it kind of like?
Not really, honestly. I'm a little surprised down here comparatively. I mean, even in Salt Lake, which has this like notorious reputation for being a dry city, you know, Mormons and all that, there is a fierce homebrewing community there. Fierce. We have a qualifier competition for national homebrew competition, and it's a big deal, and you're dealing with people that are pro brewer level, and they're competing in these homebrew competitions, and they've got legit breweries in their garage. So
moral of the story is that Mormons are closet drunks.
No, there's a huge counterculture there that's like not Mormon. It's not all Mormons there. There's plenty of non-Mormons there, but no, I actually think it was incredible for the Utah beer scene, but you have to almost be there to appreciate it. It's a strong counterculture thing to the fact that they didn't have alcohol for so long, and there is this like anti-alcohol thing there. So everybody just makes their own, and then we start competing, and instead of being all cheerleaders for each other, we're just like, well, I'm going to compete with you. I'm going to make a better beer than you. I'm going to make a better IPA. I'm going to make a better Berliner Weiss. I'm going to make a better anything than you. And so it's this really kind of like, there's no Brewpies. It's just like, oh, you have an off flavor in this beer. I'm gonna make a better beer than you.
There's beer biker gangs.
Beer biker gangs versus groupies. So yeah, it's a much different culture from my limited time here, you know, what I've experienced. So and it was great, you know, when I was working for Uenta, there was even amongst ourselves, you know, we would bring in our own homebrew, and we had our own little private tasting room, and we'd sit there and we'd be like, oh, you know, Steve's blah 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 wasn't that good today, you know, and we kind of upped each other's game in that sense. We'd challenge each other and be like, hey, do you taste these phenols, you know, and it was almost more embarrassing because we were on a pro level. If you homebrewed something that wasn't, you know, spot on, it just forced you to do something even better. So much different so far. I've only been here a couple months, but yeah, I'm excited to see the homebrewing scene around here and really get involved maybe in competitions and more on the homebrew level, and you know, getting that going or being part of it, if anything. So
yeah, that's the future of craft beer right there. I mean, that's where we're getting all these really phenomenal breweries, is people getting a kit given to them for Christmas or something. They brew a beer and they're like, yeah, that's not that bad. And then, you know, next time they get another kit, which is a little bit bigger, and they go, oh, that's a little better. And then all of a sudden you've got people taking it super serious. And that's how we're getting a lot of the really great breweries nowadays. A bunch of home brewers getting together and saying, hey, let's open this up, or I have access to some money, let me use it and do something with it. It's a cool perspective to hear about Utah, and so I never even knew that. That's a really cool perspective. Did you grow up in Utah, or did you grow up outside of Utah?
No, I actually grew up in Wisconsin, so it makes sense that I'm in the beer industry, being from Wisconsin and all that. But grew up in Wisconsin and moved to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, lived there for about 10 years. We have quite a few good craft breweries in Jackson Hole, believe it or not. There's Melvin Brewing Company, which was originally a Tie Me Up Brewing Company. They won a gold for their IPA at the Worlds competition here last year or the year before. So they are putting out some really, really good IPAs. You know, love them or hate them, IPAs are kind of an American thing now at this point, or the American IPA anyways.
Right.
They're kind of around to stay. I don't think necessarily forever, but they are here and they are a hot topic. So they've done very, very well with their IPAs. And so I kind of got my taste for craft beer there. I turned 21 in Jackson Hole. Not that that meant that was the first time I had beer, but definitely developed a stronger palate for it at that point. And I worked in the high-end hospitality industry for about 10 years and got really, really, really burnt out on dealing with high-end clientele and the stresses and pressures of that, we'll put it that way. And I joked for many years that I was like, well, you know, maybe I'll get into drywalling because then I won't have to work with people, sort of thing. And that actually led to like a real brainstorm and thought process of what would I actually be good at based on what I enjoy on like a people interaction and what I'm good at. Like I loved cooking. I still love cooking. And it all of a sudden just kind of clicked one day. I was like, well, I'm going to Tie Me Up every single night, drinking their craft beer every single night. And as a real quick backstory, when I was in 8th grade, the only aptitude test I've ever taken in my entire life, I took, and I had to go home and ask my parents what a brewmaster was, because I was like 14, 15 at the time, and I was like, this is what this stupid test is telling me I'm supposed to like focus my life on. And I had no idea what it was. And so here we are, full circle.
That's pretty awesome. Is that a joke? That's like a joke story.
No, but it's like straight legit. I can't make that shit up. So,
No.
So yeah, my parents laugh about it to this day too. They're like, well, I guess your aptitude test was right. Getting into beer and stuff. So. But yeah, I mean, kind of the rest is history. I just kind of put down the hammer and was like, I'm getting into this industry if it kills me. Started homebrewing like crazy, started reading like crazy, and got a real good, lucky, quick opportunity in Utah. It unfortunately didn't last more than about 4 months. I didn't enjoy the town I was living in, let's put it that way. And then I ended up moving from that small town that really appreciated Bud Light to Salt Lake City, where they appreciate something a little bit better.
Where the craft beer and biker gangs.
Yeah, craft beer and biker gangs and groupies. So no, I never really felt any sort of groupie thing in Salt Lake. It was all just us trying to compete with each other and make each other better. And it was never in mean spirited. It was always like, hey, I taste this, so your next batch, you know, maybe watch your fermentation temperature or whatever. We were always looking out for each other and just trying to uplift and create better beer in the area.
Yeah, I got an email question that says, like, it said, if you had one piece of advice for a home brewer that may be considering taking it to the next level, what would it be?
I guess I'd have to ask, what is their next level? The next level being opening up a brewery, or next level being working in a brewery? Because they're wildly different.
Opening a brewery.
Opening a brewery, I would say go work in a brewery. Go work in a brewery first. Even if it's just an internship, if you can float it where it's unpaid internship for 6 weeks, there's so much more. I think a lot of people think when you open a brewery, you're just a brewer and there's nothing else. But there's so much paperwork. There's taxes. There is getting approvals of construction and stuff like that. I mean, I actually almost have zero desire to ever see my own signature on my own paycheck. I kind of like somebody else's signature on my paychecks, and that's just me personally.
Yeah, that's something to be said for that.
It's just my, you know what? I'm not worried about my paycheck going through at the end of the day on Friday. Like, I know I'm going to have my money there and stuff. It's very low stress. My opinion may change in a couple of years. But yeah, my honest to God, and I feel very strongly about this. If you want to take it to the next level, take 6 to 8 weeks and intern or work or get involved in a brewery as much as you can and see the day-to-day operations and what your life may look like for the next 5 years till you potentially turn a profit. You know.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice. What about for a home brewer that is just trying to improve quality and consistency at the homebrew level? What's the biggest piece of advice you would give on that aspect?
Gosh, just keep doing it. Just keep rocking your bad self. Keep making beer. You're going to see what is going on with your beer the more you brew. I mean, it's almost like a graph. If you're getting consistent lines across your graph every single time, like you're hitting your alcohol, you're hitting your ABV, you're hitting your numbers on everything, then you've made a consistent batch of beer, which is all any professional brewery wants to do, is just put out a consistent product. Cleanliness obviously is insanely important. Insane notes. Take notes. If you see, this is something that I kind of learned the hard way. If you see a brew magazine and it's got some great piece of advice and you're like, you know, it's just in a brewery or a restaurant or whatever, and you happen to be flipping through it, write it down. Write 3 minutes of notes down. I have some incredible notes on flavors from different types of barrels that we can get in the US that were written down from 3 years ago. And I'm like, oh, these are like my coveted pieces of information. And they meant nothing to me at the time. So they're actually, my boyfriend is a brewer. He had them. He has the notes and stuff, and he was able to share them with me. I'm sorry. I just realized, like, he had them written down from like 3 years ago and stuff. And so now I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. I need this information now. It would have meant nothing to us like 3 years ago. So, yeah, no, it's just take notes. Lots of. I don't even know what you call it. Like, just lots of paperwork, lots of information, keeping data on everything you possibly can. You know, so that would be my advice.
Data. That makes sense. And especially, you know, I walk around a lot of brewery and you see a lot of paperwork on, you know, and it's funny is the beers that people take for granted. For example, you know, the flagships at a brewery, and every single time they brew it, there is stacks of paper on notes, and that's on that exact batch, and you know, with binders full of batch 1, batch 2, batch 3, batch 4, batch 5. So just apply that to the homebrew level.
Well, and what I think people don't really realize too is it legally has to be a certain amount of consistency. Like on your alcohol, you can only be 0.3, if I'm remembering correctly, because I don't have to deal with this end of things too often, but I think you only have to be, or you can only be 0.3 off of your stated alcohol percentage. So, I mean, that's not that big of a span if you're, right, you know, in a homebrew world, you're like, I got a 5% beer and I was shooting for a 7. Well, whatever. You know, sort of thing. Like, I guess this is lawnmower beer now, you know? So I do think that it is severely overlooked on the homebrew level, like consistency and taking notes and tracking your beer and tracking your data and knowing every facet of what you've put into that carboy, and then doing it over and over and over and over again. And I know it's kind of boring. Like we all went through it. We all went through the homebrew thing where we're like, throw everything in the pots, everything. We want to make this like crazy high alcohol beer with chilies and all kinds of stuff. But if you can just take like a BJCP beer, you know, an amber, or even an IPA, who cares? It's an IPA, but you make it over and over and over and over and over and over again. When you made that beer like 10 times and you've hit your numbers every time and it tastes the same every single time and you're happy with it, then I think you're good. You know, like then work on the next level. Then start putting like, you know, the kombucha tea in your beer and stuff.
All right. Okay. Makes sense. 100%.
Maybe I'm boring and fuddy-duddy in that sense, but I like to see quality and consistency represented, and then go on to be crazy and wild and all that. I mean that on a homebrew level. I mean, clearly breweries have their, they've got it down. All kinds of fun toys and whatnot. And they got to appease the masses and whatnot. But it's definitely, it's been new for me coming out here to see the amount of like really, really big ABV beers and kind of all the wild different additives and stuff. And the big movement out west lately has been session, you know, drinkable, sessionable. And I joked and I called it lawnmower beers, but that's actually what I've been looking for. I've been craving just, you know, something that I can drink all day long, go do lawn work, garden, stroll down the beach with, sort of thing. And it is not the trend here currently, but you never know. It may change.
Florida's usually behind on trends, I feel like. So I feel like it kind of like, especially like on this type of stuff, it'll kind of either come from Europe and go this way, and the West Coast will come this way, and it just kind of converges here. And then we get some like crazy mishmash of everything. You know? Sure. But I get that. Yeah, I was going to get into that now. So like, you know, the big kind of difference, and I don't know if you've noticed a difference in brewing philosophy from you into Cigar City. You know, like, I guess maybe we can call it an East Coast versus West Coast kind of mentality on, or approach towards brewing. And you're right, Cigar City, you know, they do make a lot of really crazy out there beers. I mean, the quality is top notch. And you guys go above and beyond to make sure that that everything is going to be clean and everything's going to be, tasting like it should taste. Wayne is an amazing overseer, I'm sure. I had the opportunity to talk to Wayne a lot, and he's a good buddy. But is there a difference in philosophy, I guess, from the West Coast where you were before now in Florida?
I mean, on a philosophy level, no. I mean, at our core, we all want to put out good quality beer that we feel passionate about. I mean, for sure. Following trends and like the market and what the people are craving, for sure. The West Coast is definitely falling under the sessionable, just 4%, even 3.2 to 4%, 4.5%. Beers, stuff that you can drink 3, 4, 5, 6 of with your friends, and hopefully over a period of time you can still drive home, sort of thing, and your tolerance, of course. But yeah, I mean, the goal isn't to have like one and be in risk of DUI anymore. It's like we want to have like a bunch of them. We want to have a bunch of beer and have fun and talk and talk shop and talk beer. And I think even the other movement that's kind of happening out on the West Coast is smaller. A lot more regional breweries, which wasn't the trend out there previously, which is really interesting because like previously it was a lot of big breweries trying to go national, and now they're kind of like reverting in this craft world where they're like, like the Russian Rivers and stuff. They're just staying small. They're just staying regional in their area. They're not expanding beyond their little nook of the world.
That's cool because we're getting regional identities now. I mean, we're getting, the Northeast now is being known for these massive, juicy, cloudy IPAs, for example. And the West Coast has its own style IPA. I mean, just in that one style, we get completely different. I mean, Highlight's its own kind of thing. Kind of led the way for what other people in Florida try and make their IPAs like. I feel like they're all so distinct, which is really cool because we are getting that regional identity.
But it's interesting that you brought up like the cloudy IPA versus like West Coast. Like that was their own like internal regional race, was like who could come up with like the crispest, brightest IPA. And that was kind of one of my goals and challenges with Uinta, was trying to make sure that when we were filtering hop mash, it was as bright as we could get it, and absolutely no sediment and whatnot. And the goals are just different. And I don't think that makes them bad. I just think it makes them different. And it's exciting actually to be part of the Florida beer scene at this point in its life, because I'm seeing a lot of just enthusiasm, which I can say is not what I really saw in the West Coast. Like the enthusiasm for new and innovative had kind of died off. It was already like, okay, we got this. So how do we crush out our competitors? Whereas there's still very genuine enthusiasm here on the East Coast. I actually really, really like that. That's encouraging to me.
It is cool. It's kind of like, last time I was up there, I was talking to some of the other brewers, and it's kind of like, it's a cool thing to be, especially at Cigar City, who is, for Florida, kind of led the way for the craft beer world.
Oh, for sure.
To be kind of on the cutting edge of, what's coming out of the state next, what's coming out of, what is identifiable as that Southeast region beer, right? I mean, so I'm sure it's pretty cool to be the one who gets the opportunity to kind of help solidify that. And then now with your perspective, I'm assuming you're going to try and influence a little bit more of the sessionable beers that you're used to, maybe.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, it was like actually pretty exciting at my going away party from Uinta. They were like, "Oh my God, you're going to Cigar City," because I had already known I was offered a job here. I mean, so this place is equally as coveted. I think it's very you just have two different styles,
Mhm.
and each region really wants the other region's beer. In probably small doses. Like I'm sure that the East Coast would not want like all the time dry, sessionable, what they'd probably consider boring beers. And I'm sure that the West Coast doesn't want like, malt forward, super high alcohol all the time.
Right.
But they get excited when they get a handful of these beers that manage to make their way across borders, sort of thing, and they get some of these treats. So no, I agree. I actually, not that I want to keep our country divided on beer, but I kind of like this East Coast West Coast thing.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's the new Biggie and Tupac.
Oh, for sure. Only of beer.
Yeah.
So I changed gangs. So does that mean I don't get to like talk to my old gang?
Yeah, you don't anymore.
No. Do I have to kill him if I ever see him?
That's preferable.
Okay.
No, I'm not condoning killing on.
No, I'm just kidding.
Just curious. No. You should probably maybe throw like a pillow at them or something. Let them know that you're angry at them, but not hurt them.
And then hand them a beer.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's my attempt at being funny. So I guess you're also part of the Pink Boot Society, which I think is a super important, super important. I think you'd probably do a better job of explaining the Pink Boot Society and kind of what it means to you and what it means to the brewing industry in general. But I love what it stands for, and I think that anything that we can do to support the Pink Boot Society,
for sure,
we should do. So I don't know if maybe you can kind of expand on it a little bit.
So it's a women's brewing group, and I don't even know really honestly how to expand on it. Like it's very all encompassing. They were sincerely the reason that I got the job at Cigar City. About 10 minutes after I had known that I needed to give my notice at Uinta because I was following my boyfriend to Florida. I didn't leave Uinta because I wanted to leave, but I needed to leave to follow the boy. I posted on the Pink Boots Society Facebook and was like, hey, I need a job in the brewing industry, specifically this, and this, in the Tampa Bay area. And within 24 hours, I had a verbal offer from Cigar City. And within 7 days, I had a written offer. So, and that was all because of Megan Sacer and her being a Pink Boot Society. So it's an extreme female networking opportunity is one way to look at it. But then it's also an information network. I don't want to call it a support group because that doesn't sound right. We don't really.
I'm Ashley, and I am
Ashley, and I'm a female, and I like beer. No, it's not really a support group, but it's like a more fine-tuned information networking thing, I guess. So I got the job. I mean, there's great women's brew days, so where you get together and you just brew together, and you feel more comfortable asking questions and things like that. I haven't been able to be super involved because there wasn't a real strong presence in the Pink Boot Society in Utah. As you can imagine, we don't have that many breweries there. I think there was only like 10 total in the whole entire state of Utah when I left. I know there's quite a few more opening. But I have been tracking and following their influence, and they are a great resource. Like I said, I wouldn't have my job today if it wasn't for the Pink Boot Society. So I'm extremely grateful.
Yeah, we chatted about this a little bit in the past. That it still is a male-dominated industry, and so an organization like the Pink Boot Society who can kind of help other women get their foot in the door and promote, hey, women, we can brew, and we talked about this before, yes, it's a lot of heavy lifting. We can still do that. Yes, it's a lot of manual labor. We can still do that. And so for a group to be able to help you guys by promoting that, kind of breaking down that wall, that barrier, that kind of the perception. I think it's huge because we talked about it also is, female palates, I think, are a lot more sensitive to different flavors. And so, and it's obvious. I mean, men and women I'm generalizing, but men and women have different, views on things, or can perceive a same situation differently. All right. And I'm generalizing, but it's the more different types of perspectives and views that we can bring to the industry, the better it is for the breweries that are employing more diverse brewers, whether that be male, female, or racial. But it's only going to help expand and strengthen and better breweries to be able to hire. And so I guess what I'm trying to get at is Pink Boot Society is a phenomenal thing that allows that to kind of flourish a little bit more.
Well, and I think, the thing that you're touching on for me is we're not breaking down walls for our male counterparts. We're breaking down our own walls. Like, I had just never thought of being in a brewery. I mean, here I had this aptitude test in 8th grade, and I still never thought of being like a brewery worker for some reason. It was my own wall that I had to break down. It was my own, okay, what do I want to do with my life? What do I think I'd be good at? And hey, I enjoy craft beer and I like science and I like art. Well, that seems like a pretty good mashup, but I still had that wall to break down to be like, well, can I do it? Like, can I lift like the bags of malt? It's our own walls. It's not breaking down. It's not stereotypes. I've never had, I've had a handful of slight sexist situations, but they weren't anything I couldn't handle. Like, if you're going to be in the brewing industry, you've got to be able to handle that. Like, it's really not, it's not bad. It's really, really not bad what I've had to deal with. And so I think that the biggest thing is making these job opportunities and these career paths aware to women. And that's something that I'm not sure if Pink Boot Society is doing, or if it's something that we can all collectively as a female group do better, is tapping into, women's science, or women who are in sciences and things like that, and being like, hey, you don't have to just study dolphins. You could go and make beer, like, like really, really tapping the women groups and sciences. I hope that was okay and funny, because I feel a little stupid now. I'm just trying to think of like what women would study in science, like dolphins. I like dolphins. I actually like penguins better, but
yeah, screw the penguin. Let's brew beer. Yeah.
No, I think it's much more of a self-awareness thing. That it's, Megan and I had this conversation. She was like, well, how did you get into it? And I was like, well, how did you get into it? And both of us very much had this, like, I don't know, it just kind of dawned on us one day that we could do this, and it sounded rad. Like, it sounded like a great time. Like, we were already drinking craft beer, and we already loved craft beer, and we were already making craft beer. We were like, why don't we do it, like, for money? Like, why are we not doing this? So it's reaching out to women before they're at the point where I'm at. Once you get to a person who's already in it, like, I'm already, talking dick and fart jokes with the guys. Like, it doesn't bother me. But it's reaching out to the women who are maybe like a little self-conscious, and they might have an interest. I'm not sure what the solution to that is to get more women in the industry. I mean, I don't know, other than like stake out brew pubs and hand out flyers and be like, you could do this. Little stickers or something. I don't know. But it's a great time. I definitely encourage any female, if there are any that are listening and thinking about it, like I said, intern or even shadow. I mean, that was my very first brewery thing, was just day shadowing for free on my days off. I just, I wanted to see, because that was actually my biggest fear, was I wonder if I'm strong enough to do this. I wonder if there's, some sort of like magical male sorcery in beer that like I just don't have. And So I did a couple of days of just shadowing at Snake River Brewery up in Jackson Hole, and lo and behold, there was actually no sorcery involved. It was just I was dirty at the end of the day, which I didn't really mind. I was like, okay. And then I got beer afterwards.
And I gotta imagine not many breweries are are turning down free labor either.
No, they're not. The only time they might turn you down is if they're uber busy and they're like more of a brew pub where it's just one guy doing his thing. But if you find like even a 15 or whatever barrel brewery, a 30 barrel brewery, they're gonna have enough people. You can live out with somebody.
Cool.
So
I want to get into Cigar City a bit.
Okay.
That's where you work now.
Yes, it is.
We spent the entire time talking about where you used to work. So I think it's only fair to Joey that we talk about Cigar City. I guess first of all, kind of like a real kind of not really necessarily maybe like an important Cigar City question, but I guess what's been your favorite experience so far at Cigar City since you got there?
Oh my God, the people. The people are so nice here. Very welcoming and encouraging, and everyone is just quick to. They're just super nice here, and there is an element of innovation still here, which I really appreciate. They are just striving to do something new kind of every day and put out the best possible quality product that they have. I think I told you we have the new lager out that is delightful, and I am enjoying that tremendously. It's a brewery favorite. You'll see most of us employees sitting out there around 2 o'clock having a lager or two after work, and it's a great beer. It's
I've been hearing a lot of awesome things about it. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but
soon.
Yes, very soon.
Hit distribution this week, so everybody should be able to get their hands on it very shortly. So,
is that something you get the opportunity to work on at the brewery, or is that?
I didn't get to get my mitts on this one, but hopefully, down the road, it'll be something I get to play with. Lagers are a personal affinity of mine. I actually tend to like the lagers. If I had to pick a favorite child, it'd be the lagers versus the ales sort of thing. But I know that they can be challenging because of tank space and whatnot. But
right.
I love a good lager.
It is Cigar City, so is there like a special spin on this lager, or are we dialing it back and we're brewing a straight up clean?
It's a straight up clean, flawless, beautiful, crystal clear lager. It is a lawnmower beer, but I mean that with every bit of my heart. I'm in love with this beer. It's something you can have 2 or 3 of. Don't know the exact alcohol on it. I think it's like 4 point something.
No, it's not. It's under 5, and it's at Cigar City.
I believe so. I'd have to wave somebody in here to find out exactly. But yeah, no, I believe it is under 5, and it's delightful. It's crisp. It's everything my heart desires. Especially after a long day of work, and I mean, Florida being so hot, it's like the perfect beer to just have a couple of those after a long day or whatever. And no, it's been great. Everyone is so nice here. Again, there's a sense of innovation that they want to put out the best product they possibly can. There's a sense of care for the industry and the product. I mean, our lab is intense. I mean, we are looking at every aspect of our beer and making sure that it is as top quality as we possibly can before it sees the light of day. So I've been insanely impressed with this place.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah, every time I go back, it's incredible how much it grows each and every time I go back, and the new stuff that's being done, and it's just. And it's a welcoming group too. I mean, it's just awesome to be around everybody over there. But
we've earned our burpees.
That's it. Speaking of groupies, in how many months? 2 months. I'll be up there.
Yeah.
Halfway working, halfway not at Hunapu Day. Talk about a culmination of groupies flying in from all over the world. I know it's your first experience at Hunapu Day. What's the brewery like now getting ready for that? And what's the process like getting a beer like Hunapu ready to go for an event like that?
Well, right now the beer is sleeping soundly away in their barrels and whatnot, or sleeping soundly away. But there was some hubbub here a couple of weeks ago when we were brewing. That was all we were brewing, and I imagine that there will be some hubbub coming up here in the end of February. I have not experienced Hunapu Day, but I've been through other similar processes and experiences, and I know that the anticipation is going to build throughout the February month and whatnot. And I'm excited because the Hunapu Day is what, I think March 12th?
Yeah.
My birthday is March 15th, so everybody's gonna be too hungover to celebrate my birthday. It's my 30, so.
Last year I was there, and so I walked in early, and I was able to walk right up. I started the day off at I think 10:30 in the morning or 10 in the morning. I forgot what time they opened, but it was early with a 11% double barrel Hunapu, like first thing in the morning. And I didn't drink much, I didn't think.
We're having a seizure.
I completely forgot to go get the food because of food tickets. I was taking pictures for the website and stuff and talking to people for the web. And then I completely forgot to drink water, and it was hot, and a group of the Miami brewers and myself got an Uber and ran over to Coppertail afterwards and started drinking an 11% double IPA. And
you remember all this?
Yeah, it was painful, but I remember. I guess the moral of the story is, whoever's going, drink water, remember to use your meal tickets, and for God's sake, don't start with a 10% alcohol beer at 10 in the morning.
No, I mean, I would up that one further, and I would say stop at McDonald's before you go to Hunapu Day and have 6 breakfast burritos or whatever greasy nonsense stuff you got.
Well, I did that at Denny's. I did that at Denny's across the street. That was a really healthy day.
Girl, food is very, very important when you're drinking copious amounts of alcohol. That's really need to grease the stomach sort of thing.
Is there anything you're looking forward to most about experiencing Hunapu Day? Is there any? Well, I guess you probably can't tell us any surprises if you know any. Some of the lists coming out already. Have you had a chance to try any of the variants of the Hunapu that they're talking about and they're going to be serving?
I don't know. No, I mean, not. I can't say what I've tried and what I haven't tried. I will let it be a surprise for everyone and let them kind of.
All right. Okay. We'll leave it alone. We'll keep moving on. But moral of the story: it's an awesome event. Unfortunately, if you don't have your tickets already, you're not going to be there with us. But for those of you who are going to be there with us, say hi to Ashley and say hi to me.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Is there all right. Go and keep going with Cigar City. When you go to Cigar City as a brewer, how does that work? Is it? I mean, I guess maybe this question goes to any brewery. I mean, is it when you get there? And you're a brewer, do they assign you to we want you to kind of be responsible for X, Y, and Z beers? You kind of like a routine that you come into the brewery and you know that you're going to be on highlight, for example, or.
I've been kind of no, I mean I've been kind of all over. Been working and I've been trying to work more with our barrel program and whatnot, and working with our barrel uh, type process and stuff. But I mean, we have a centrifuge, so anytime something needs to be ran through our centrifuge, I'm doing that. There's a group of us. I mean, I'm not the only one there, so I just work with whatever needs to be done. I mean, the beer doesn't sleep, the beer doesn't stop. So if Maduro is ready to be dealt with, or any of that, then that's what I do that day. The beer is in command, not the people. So,
Have you found a favorite beer to work on yet while you've been at Cigar City? I mean, is there like a beer that you've kind of enjoyed being a part of the process with?
I tend to really enjoy our Guayabera. I've liked working with that one. We just moved a standard bitter today or yesterday. I moved it yesterday, and that was delightful. It's a really, really good beer, and they have it on cask here at the tasting room. And that's delightful as well. But no, they all have their individual personalities. It's, I'm sure as time goes on, unfortunately, I've only been here about 3 months, but as time goes on, I'm sure I will find beers with personalities that I will have a love-hate relationship with or whatnot. But it's all been good. I have no complaints. This place is amazing. Everyone is so nice, and even a challenging day is a great day here. So,
If you could put your stamp on a beer, right? Let's say this is kind of stemming from a question I got in an email. Somebody wanted to know, I guess, at the homebrew level, we kept talking about homebrew, so I got a couple homebrew questions.
Sure.
How you make a beer, like an IPA. We kept talking about IPAs. Super crisp, but like really pungent, right? And we were talking about getting that real kind of like nice hop character. I guess the first question is, how do you get that done at the homebrew level? Second is that kind of like what would be like a stamp that you would like to imprint on beers that you get to work? Like let's say that tomorrow you're the one responsible for creating a beer at Cigar City. First question is the homebrew question. Second question is, we kept talking about IPAs. Would it be an IPA that's like that, or would it be something else?
Well, I mean, they don't actually have to be that separate of a question. I would start with, a really good trusted recipe. I would find a beer that I really, really enjoy, and I would look for a clone of it and then just expand upon that. I am not super strong in the recipe development department just yet, but I would start with a recipe that I trust from a cloned beer, and I'd really watch my fermentation. I mean, temperature is super, super important. The first, 30% of your fermentation is your flavor profile. So I would really, really, really watch your first 30% of your fermentation, whether that be on a homebrew level or on a professional level. And then crashing is important. The longer your beer is crashed, the clearer it's going to be. Also, if you have any sort of filtration, I know that's a little bit more difficult and more costly on the homebrew level, but either a centrifuge or filtering on the professional level. I'm like one of the only people on the planet that misses a DE filter. I love DE filters. It's like kind of the last little bit of art in brewing sometimes, because you can kind of watch the clarity up and down on a DE filter. But anyways, then there's filtration, and I know that they make little tiny filters for homebrewing. I've never purchased one. You can usually just get your clarification with your standard, like your biofines, or even just crashing it long enough temperature control. But a really good, clear, clean, crisp IPA is one of my favorite things on the planet, honestly. It's to me, it's just as refreshing, but a bit more high octane if that's what you're into or going for on a end of a long summer day.
Yeah, that's another question I kind of wanted to touch on, right? We sort of hit it earlier, but it's part of the regional thing, right? I mean, and we kind of both scratch our heads at the palate down in Florida being so driven by massive, really aggressive, really high alcohol, real kind of sometimes even syrupy beers, which doesn't really make sense with
the weather, no,
and the climate down here. But for the most part, right around the country, I mean, that's what we're seeing, right? I mean, we're kind of seeing these styles emerge based on regional.
Well, I'd expect to see more of some of these Florida beers that I've seen here out in the mountains where I came from, because it makes sense. It's like stick to your bones beer, like it's hearty, it's high alcohol, it's malt forward. But down here, and I've experienced it elsewhere. I actually went to the Caymans in April, and the same thing. They like their really like dark, high alcohol beers down there. It's a little surprising to me. I kind of do scratch my head figuratively and literally. Like, I would love just a Pilsner, my kingdom for a Czech Pilsner. But that's okay. You know what? I'll just make one at home. So, but it is interesting. I don't think that it's just a regional thing. I think that it's a movement that goes across the country. We're seeing trends, and it is trends. It's not necessarily like a knowledge thing. It's not necessarily a fault or a flaw in any way, shape, or form. So I don't want that taken the wrong way. But I think we see trends move from west to east. And so a lot of the trends that we're seeing on the West Coast just haven't hit here yet. So eventually, in potentially a year or two, we're going to see like session IPAs being a really big deal. But they're already blowing up out west. Like that's what all anybody's making. So we'll see. Yeah.
You kind of hit on my follow-up already.
So, sorry.
Now I have less to say. I can hear myself speak less. That's not nice. I kind of have like one kind of parting question. I mean, is it, so we're talking about trends a little bit. You stole my question. Thanks a lot for doing that. But, and do you foresee, other than maybe it's a session IPA, but do you foresee, I mean, you haven't been here that long,
No.
but maybe like in talks with other brewers in the area or at Cigar City, is there kind of a conscious decision to kind of go one way or the other coming forward, maybe at Cigar City or just overall in Florida?
Just in general in Florida, I've only been here 2 years. I have not explored. Moving is really, really expensive, and brewing is not that lucrative. Just, so everyone knows, like, I haven't really explored the area. But I will say this, that if I can throw out any sort of advice based on my experiences, pick up the BJCP guidelines and like start focusing on things that are just like traditional, like what are, I mean, and they're not even traditional. I mean, American IPA isn't necessarily like traditional. I mean, we just added like 7 categories this year or something silly like that. But hitting things to style, do that first and then get funky chicken.
That's pretty much what Bob at St. Somewhere said last week when we were chatting. I said, what's the one piece of advice? He's kind of the father of craft beer in Florida. I said, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to breweries that are starting out now or breweries that are already kind of started? And he goes, chill the hell out. Focus on brewing a really solid amber. Yeah,
it doesn't
just
matter what.
Forget like chocolate syrup all the time. So, it's funny you say that too, because again, he was talking. You guys have different perspectives on it. To him, it's a maturity thing. You're saying it's not. To him, he thinks it's a maturity thing. It seems like, and he's just like and we kind of chatted about the fact that some of the more mature or established beer markets, the ones that have a brewery on every corner and succeed, brewers that succeed on every corner, are really focusing in on creating a really solid IPA, like you said, a really solid Pilsner, a really solid, and just focusing on that first, and then giving that craft, the brewpie or craft beer nerd contingent something to bite on every once in a while, but really focusing in on honing in on quality and consistency first. Otherwise, it means he's scared. It seems like that there will be this bubble, and the people who will be left out will be the ones that weren't focused on that quality. Let's call it base, amber or blonde or.
You need a core brand. You need to focus on a core brand, and that's one of the things that I'm seeing is really, really great with CCB is we have a core brand, and we're really pushing that. And I like that we have the lager in there. Focus on your core brand. Your core brand is going to carry your brewery, and then you can create anticipation and lust, if you will, for the goofy stuff and for the the creative bursts that you have throughout your year and whatnot, and that's exciting. I mean, that's what keeps people driven and interested in your brewery and whatnot. But you still have to give out kind of an everyday, consistent product, which we're definitely doing with Highlight and now this new Tampa, Florida, and Tocobaga and Cracker. They're consistent, and Invasion. Like they're all. Oh yeah, me too. Like they're all really consistent, good beers that you can always count on. They are not changing. They're your everyday drinkers, and then you get to look forward to, the Hunapu Day stuff. And I haven't learned all of them yet, so I apologize. But you get to look forward to the specialty events, and so I don't know. I think they've got a great thing going here, and they're on the road to success. In general, from the Florida market, I would like to see people do the same thing, kind of focus on a core brand, on core beers, make those, your everyday drinkers, and then and do the goofy stuff on the side, do the fun stuff, the crazy high alcohols, the beer that pours out of a taxidermied rat, sort of thing, whatever that was. What wasn't that? The squirrel was like the most expensive.
A squirrel, I don't even. Yeah. I just saw a picture of it and was like, that's not for me.
Do it in your spare time. Make sure you kill the rat with like a slingshot or something really challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry. Do that in your spare time is all I gotta say about that.
It's probably better just to strangle the rat so that there's no wound. Poor rats. I think on that note,
that's a good closing note. I think actually
strangling a rat. Yeah, I think that's how we're gonna close this one.
Oh my god!
Look, I had a blast. It was cool to hear your perspective on brewing, and it's cool to hear your kind of like early insight into Cigar City, which is, for people in Florida is kind of like a thing of, I don't know if mystery is a word, but people just really want to know as much as they can about Cigar City. It's pretty awesome to see where they've come from just a few years ago to now, and bringing on people like yourself from other regions to bring in different perspectives and influence. I think it's awesome. So I was really happy to get the chance to talk with you on air versus just off air. I'm sure I missed things that people want to hear about. So if they start bothering me for more information, I'm going to bother you, and I'll put it into the story that I'm going to put on the website. But I just thank you, and welcome to Cigar City, and welcome to Florida Brewing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to being here and being part of the culture here. I'm enjoying it.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you at Huna, and see everybody else in Huna. Hasta luego.